Well, welcome. You've taken the first step in changing your future. We at Computer Mentors create creators. We're going to give you the opportunity of not only being a consumer of technology, but a creator of technology. And we are very happy to have you come and join us. Computer Mentors Group is an idea that I had as a very young man when I was 25 years old. I had gotten my first job as a computer programmer and had moved away from my hometown, Ann Arbor, Michigan, about 90 miles away. I volunteered for the juvenile justice system up there in Lansing, Michigan, and met about 15 young men who were not much different than myself. They had gotten involved in the juvenile justice system, and one reason I thought was because they had just had too much time on their hands. And I thought that, man, wouldn't it be a great idea if I started a small computer school for them? Fast forward 15 years to where I moved to Miami, Florida, and went to work for a large company called Citibank. After about 5 years at Citibank, I got my first tap on the shoulder, and they were going to lay me off. This repeated 2 additional times until finally I got the idea that the only way for me to control my own destiny was to start my own company. By that time, I was in Orlando, Florida, so I ran an ad in the Orlando Sentinel. A young man named Jack answered that ad needing a small business computer programmer. Jack had this little marketing company, and I wrote some marketing analysis software for him. Jack and I continued to work together for about 5 years. And Jack is one of these guys that's a serial entrepreneur. He had started another little company over here in Clearwater, and had another idea that what he wanted to do was to put ATMs in places like 7-Eleven. Now, of course, you have to remember that this is back in 1997, before anyone else had this idea. So Jack introduced me to another guy who gave me the specs and helped me to understand how to program these ATMs that were going to be in the 7-Elevens. After the meeting, Jack had invited us back to his place for dinner. And along the way, we picked up Boston Market for us to eat. Jack had asked us if we wanted anything to drink, and he was back fixing drinks when there was a quiet moment between me and the other guy. And he asked me, what would I do if I won the lottery? And so I told him about all the things that I wanted to buy: a new car, a bigger house, and that I wanted to cruise the world and play tennis, be an international tennis pro. Just at this time, Jack was coming back in the room when I finished up the story by saying, but one day, what I want to do is start a small computer school for youth. Jack was so intrigued with the idea that we spent the next 20 minutes talking about technology and education. And finally, Jack asked me, well, Ralph, that is such a great idea. Why aren't you doing it? Well, Jack gave me an assignment to go away for about a week and to figure out how long it would take and how much it would cost to write a control program for the ATMs that he put in the 7-Elevens. That next week when I came back, Jack was in his office, but he was on the phone. I waved at him, he waved at me, and then I went to another office. After a while, I heard Jack get off the phone, and I knew he knew I was there and why I was there, but he did not come out. Finally, after waiting for a little while, I started actually doing some work for Jack, because I always had some programming to do. About 20 minutes later, Jack finally came into the office where I was at. And as I turned around and looked at him, he looked kind of strange. So I asked him, I said, well, Jack, is everything okay? And Jack told me, he says, yes, everything's fine. Except, you know that idea that you had about that computer school? He says, I really think that's a great idea and something that ought to happen. He said, if you're serious about this, I'd like to help you. And I told Jack at that point that, Jack, I've never been more serious about anything in my life. Jack also promised me $7,500 to buy the first computers and software that I would need to start this program. So that next night, I went to my pastor and said, Pastor, my dream is about to bear fruit. I now have some computers and some software and this idea to start the small computer school that I've always dreamed of. All I need now is a space. Well, my pastor told me, Ralph, right now we do not have space. But if I could wait until he got the Family Life Center built, that he would give me a room in the Family Life Center. Problem was that we had not actually hit the ground with the shovels yet to build the Family Life Center. So that was going to be some time off. And I really wanted something that was going to happen right now. That next morning, I had to actually drive down 275. And as I drove down 275, it was taking so long because of the construction that I got off at 275 and drove down the side street, Nebraska, to get to the courtroom. Before I got there, though, I saw this building on the left-hand side that looked like it was perfect. It was as if a voice said, well, go and check it out. So I did. I got on my car and read the sign that said the Ybor City Branch, Hillsborough County Library. And as I knocked on the door, a lady opened the door, and I explained to her that I had this idea that I wanted to start a group called Computer Mentors Group. We had some computers and some software, and all we needed was a space. And she told me that her boss would really want to hear about this, but she was not here. While I was in court, my pager went off, and it happened to be the head librarian. So about 10 minutes later, we got a break, and I called the head librarian, and I explained to her that I had some computers and some software, and we had this idea that we wanted to do computer training for youth. And she told me, well, Mr. Smith, you're not going to believe this, but I'm sitting here right now attempting to write a grant to Hillsborough County, asking them for some additional dollars for the Ybor City Hillsborough Library. And that we are trying to develop a youth skills center. And the cornerstone of our skills center is going to be computer training for youth.